welcome back to the new year in Cary here. Spent the entire Christmas break at home in Cary with family. Yeah, it's exciting. Not much went on. A lot of cleaning up after a lot of parties for the weekend. What about you?
Oh, I didn't get any invites to those parties.
You did. You did get one.
Yeah, you did.
After the fact. Yeah.
No,
That was
we
not
all were
after the
invited.
fact. Everybody.
What did you do all New Year's, Ellen?
We did a lot of, we hosted some parties, did some caroling in the neighborhood.
I think you were at that party.
I think you were there.
Mm-hmm.
It was lots of fun. Also hosted for Christmas, just a small group, 23. So
23.
a lot
Small.
of family get-togethers,
small.
wonderful celebrations, and really excited and looking forward to 2019.
Yeah. My wife and I went to family in Cary, and I ended up leaving at like 8 o'clock to take the kids home because they weren't feeling well. So it was kind of a quiet kind of Christmas.
It's a lot for little kids.
It
It's
is
very
a lot for
exciting.
little
And
kids.
yours watched mine, and they were phenomenal. Sean did.
My kids like
My
watching
daughter
my
wants to
kids.
come back caroling, so she's like, "Are we going there again?"
Did you go caroling?
I did not. Lila
But she
did
did.
with
Lila.
her. My
I'm
wife.
surprised. Yeah, then.
Yeah, my voice. You know.
We went with the
It's real
pastor.
big.
The
Yeah.
pastor of St. Peter and Paul went. He went wassailing with us.
Yeah.
Hey, you know where else we went?
Where?
On a field trip.
We did.
We
We
did.
did an awesome field trip.
We
What did
did.
you guys think about it? Because I've seen it before. How about you guys? What did you think?
Well, where did we go?
We went to the Meyer Material.
We
The
did.
lake, the new lake.
It's a lake.
Yep.
It's a lake now.
Very nice.
It's beautiful. We saw wildlife.
We got a tour. Yeah, we got a whole tour.
We
from-
learned.
Yeah,
We
Randy.
loved. We have Randy. Well, we have to give him a shout out
Yeah.
because
that was a great
He's a
tour.
wealth
He
of
knew a
knowledge.
lot
he
about
gave
it.
us
Yep.
2 hours of his time and toured us around on the majority of the path.
Correct.
And we went
around the whole thing.
around the entire thing. He gave us about his information, let us get out in the freezing cold and stare at the lake, but showed us, the difference between what would have been versus what is.
Yeah.
Right. And what did he say roughly? Do you remember how much he said, seeing that we gave him the extension, how much bigger the lake wound up being?
It would have been 60-ish. In the
60%.
ballpark is
Yeah,
60% of the size it is now.
Size it is now.
So it really increased it a
Big
lot.
increase.
Certainly. Well, and there was a lot more than that too. The grading.
Correct.
Yep.
Had we not approved the ordinance for the extension, there's certain things that we wouldn't have gotten. And one of them would have been the grading, because the original conditional permit, didn't have specifics. It said you had to have a path around it, but it didn't get to the contouring and all of the
Right,
grading.
everything's
shelf.
nice and smooth in there. Yep.
They had and they had an island or a peninsula,
Right.
a fishing peninsula. There's a beach area, a lot
There's
of
an
grading,
area that could potentially
Right, the
be
beach.
a beach.
potentiality area. I guess
Right.
it's real slow right there.
Correct,
Pretty
correct.
flat.
Flattened out.
But it would
nice.
also be extremely expensive to put a beach in there.
It's true.
There's a nice parking lot in there for vehicles.
Yep.
It was a beautiful parking lot.
Definitely, I think one of the things that the village also was able to get from those negotiations was an additional $500,000.
Right.
So that's a lot of money that we were able to use.
And the park district did
And the park district, right, the
350,000.
park district, what they did is they had the option of either having Meyer complete the path for them
Mm-hmm.
or asking for money. And they wanted money because with getting that money, they were able to go ahead and then get a grant
To
for over
match
$1
with that money.
million. Yeah.
Whereas they would have had to come up with that money out of their own to
Correct.
match.
Right.
So that was really a huge win. I mean, that to me shows cooperation from within taxing bodies, which is what we all should be doing.
Right.
It's all for the benefit of the people here. So if we're able to work together to do that, I think we're able to accomplish that.
That's the goal. Being down there, and
Yeah.
we were talking
It
about
was impressive.
It was a really great opportunity to appreciate, since I don't go in other people's backyards and fox trails.
Right.
They don't let me do that. But what I did like is when we went down in kind of the lows of it, a couple, about 10 feet above the lake, you really feel a lot more isolated than you would have thought. You don't see 31.
Right.
You don't see Clausen. You see the homes and the trees up at Fox Trails to the northeast from when we're down there, but it really felt like a secluded wildlife area that you don't feel when you're at maybe some similar pits.
Right.
When you have that park experience that they've reclamated.
Yeah, it's a good walking distance in there. I forget, what did Randy say? How many miles around was that?
I think you seen it was around 4,
I
maybe.
thought he said 4.5 miles.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think it's a little. I think it's a little
Around
under 5
I've never
miles.
walked that far. I don't know, but
I don't know if I can either. So
yeah, you get out there about 2 miles.
right, just turn back. Right, come get me. I'm done.
Well, I mean, the good news is that Randy was very. We really appreciate him taking us out there because right now people aren't allowed out there.
Right.
We don't. The village is not village
Without
property
supervision.
Right now. Right, you'd have to have someone from there.
We were
take you there.
supervised.
So we were supervised.
It was sanctioned.
But it also gives
Very
a
well
lot of,
supervised.
like I said, a fountain of information.
Yeah.
Really was able to hopefully give everybody a lot of insight. and I can only speak from the standpoint of when this came before the board to do the extension, there was a lot of hearings and a lot of people in Fox Trails, and rightfully so, were very frustrated and upset because it was taking longer than they had anticipated. And the things I heard as a board member was their concerns were things like the dust and the noise. You know,
Right.
those are the major concerns. So looking into that, I feel like, and those are legitimate. We need to look at those type of things and say, is there a way to get that addressed? And I feel that the board did that. You know, we came in and had an underwater dredge.
To
So that
mitigate
was to
the-
It made a
mitigate
big
that.
difference. I live in Fox Trails the last
Yeah.
4 years. It
Yeah.
was a big difference.
Yeah. So in addition, again, it was able to extend that and make that 30, 40% larger lake, which I think, when people are living there and waiting for that, to get that bigger was also important
Right.
for the long-term vision, look at the long-term and see what we can do with that.
Sure.
And other, to be honest, some of our opponents, they voted no for that. So I look at that as an opportunity for benefiting all of Cary Village residents and hearing their concerns and seeing how do we come up with a solution to address those.
So in 16, the feel was that they were addressing mitigating the environmental impact more by doing the underwater dredging.
Correct.
Okay. And that would also, by doing it underwater, noise and dust reduction.
Correct.
And they also made some other changes. The timeline that they were
Right,
working.
they were doing 24/6, so meaning that they were operating those 24 hours a day for
Right.
6 days a week, nothing on Sundays. But and from living over there, we had someone that was monitoring sound over there
Right.
to make sure that you weren't seeing some increase with that. And all of those things worked out really,
Yeah,
it
it
seems
did
to have
work
worked
out.
out well. And I think the end product is that we got a lake that was closer to what everyone anticipated it coming in at.
Right, because I remember reading the ordinance with 01612
Right.
or 1102 which is online.
Right.
See, they had $25,000 from them that was just to sound.
Correct.
I mean, there was a number of safeguards. So, I wasn't a member of the village board then, but it seemed
Right.
like that they had tried to cover a number of avenues, from sound, from dust to site
Right.
for mining and continuing. And what ended up ultimately getting us another approximately 30% of the lake, and then more appropriate grading, whereas
Correct.
it would have been somewhat left.
They could have left it
Right, without the
basically as
agreement,
is.
they could have
Right.
walked away.
Okay.
They could have just had a trail around it, but there was nothing that specified what the actual contouring was going to be.
No
And-
grade improvement,
Correct.
nothing. Right.
Correct. So it'll take some time for some of that to fill in, but you could see from the one side, closer to Clausen, that had been done a lot longer, and that's
Yeah.
more filled in than the side that's coming around to the 31 side that they did at the end, and closer to the
Yeah,
end
I
of
think
Fox
spring
Trails.
will bring a lot of nice growth in that area.
Yeah. So again, to have a schematic design was well worth it. I mean, think about what it would have cost for us to do that grading.
Right.
Over $1 million.
Yeah, at least. It kind of blew my mind because it was really crummy out.
Yeah.
It was the worst time of the year to be looking at this, albeit the snow was off the ground.
Right.
But it really still looked pretty, and that's what I took from it. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. But when we got down there, that it wasn't just like vacant land.
Stripped
Right.
land.
Like
No.
Main Sand East, I live just hundreds of feet away, and it kind of, reminded me of that more than I really thought it would have,
Right.
which is great because that is such, it has the older growth trees and such.
Correct.
But it had such a more organic feel than I expected versus mine,
Right.
Yeah,
I
you don't
agree
see
100%.
mine anymore when you go there.
No,
really
you
don't.
see peninsula fish
Right, fishing.
and way
walking.
too long of a trail for a guy like me to hike around and things like that.
I don't know if I agree. I think you could make the hike.
I'm a
Sounds
big
like a
hiker.
challenge.
I've got boots in my car.
It'll be a great place though to do things like 5K runs, things like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You could have different organizations that want to come out and do things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. We have great organizations in our town that like to do things like that. Heroes for Haley, different things like that want to do some runs. That
I'll
might be a
watch those.
great,
I'll watch.
great.
Yeah, walk.
I'll walk from your house.
Be at the starting end. Perfect. But those are the types of things that can be used right away. And again, next year the goal will be we purchase some of the items to put in there. Benches and some bathrooms and
Piers.
So we can also talk about the tax levy and what has passed. What was it, in October, November? November. And would you like to tell us a little bit about that? And I'd like to chime in.
Well, I think that one of the main things that we've always been striving to is to keep our property tax, the levy, low as possible, so not really looking to increase it. Since the time I've been on the board, we've not done an increase at all. This year, we did make sure to take the new growth. Now, the new growth is not a tax increase. Okay, so what that is that when a new development comes into the village, there are new taxes generated from that. So in the most recent year, the two things that came on were the Garden Place Apartments and the Stryker Edition. So that generated some new taxes for us.
So I've been reading online, though, that my taxes went up. I didn't think that was the case, and the village isn't taxing me more.
No. So your line item, when you get your tax bill, everything's done by each taxing body, whether it be the school district, 26, 155, all the different taxing bodies. So the village, what we did is we said, we've got to be capturing this new growth. Otherwise, why are you looking for new development if you're not going to take the money that generated to come into the system?
Well, with that new growth, then, that means in this case, there's two new properties, substantial ones, both of which are maintained by our village services. So by not taking that new growth, if we didn't, and then the tax burden goes down all around, then we're kind of reducing or diluting the quality of what we offer from the municipality, because we're trying to do even more with the same amount.
Correct.
That'd
So
be one way to
to
look
me,
at it.
it's the other way to look at it is it's just kind of like saying, leaving money on the table.
Right.
Here's your money. Do you want it or do you not want it? So for the average taxpayer, if they haven't done anything to improve their property, maybe they did an addition. Let's say they didn't do a new deck or finish their basement or anything like that, then their tax burden should not be changing from the village's standpoint.
Right, it's the other properties. So in fact, my taxes, the levy wasn't raised against the homeowners in Cary.
Correct.
It was that we had two properties in which now we're on a tax roll that never were.
Correct.
And so I guess what I read online really confused me, and I'm glad that I cleared that up.
Right. Again, you have that one-time opportunity. If you do not take it and capture it that first year it comes on, you cannot recapture it. It's gone.
Right, and they need village services.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure that our police would respond to the additional building of
it would
Stryker.
just keep on accumulating. So
Right.
keep on accumulating, that loss would just put you further and further behind. So again, no new taxes to village residents, but just capturing that new growth. That to me is fiscally responsible.
We had an online question.
We
We had
did.
an online question about TIF 2.
That's exciting. Where is TIF 2?
TIF 2, Northwest Highway, across from the new train station going in.
Sure.
Yeah. They were wondering what we think can happen with TIF 2.
That has about 7 years left.
Right. About 7 years left on it.
Only about $75,000 in that TIF fund versus substantially more in TIF 1.
Right.
TIF 1 is Jandis,
Right. Janice
And
down to the river. Jack's Channel.
Jack's Channel,
It's a big one.
big.
But
Lot more
TIF,
money.
yes, TIF 2. So the question was, and I'm paraphrasing, that we may or may not have vision about what we'd like to see with TIF 2.
Right.
What is that? What is going to happen with that money? It's not ultimately right up to us right here, not right now, but what could happen potentially, or what is going to happen? And again, that TIF has 7 years approximately, from what I
Yeah,
understand. left.
$75,000.
Right. Whereas a lot of the TIF 1 is over $1 million or close
Right.
to it.
No, it's over $1 million. About
Over $1 million,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it is substantially more money. And the point of the TIF is to, well, actually, I'll digress. At first, when that TIF was implemented, from what I understand, there was an expectation of those properties being substantially more developed.
Correct.
Since its inception, I think it's fair to say that never happened, and hence the low growth of that TIF,
Correct.
generally speaking.
Correct.
And it's difficult. So the question was, what to do, what is going to happen to that money, and really to make an impact for those properties that sit there, those businesses, which are, to love, many of them, they're part of Cary, they're downtown Cary.
Right.
I don't think that money as it sits now, and even over the next couple of years, is on track to really make a big impact to help, follow the comprehensive plan to reinvest in those properties and to make a difference beyond, $75,000, unfortunately, in infrastructure terms, isn't much more than a little bit of sidewalk, unfortunately.
Sidewalk.
But some of that may come into play as we're looking at things like getting the new metro train, we're getting the new metro station in there.
Right.
And, Dale, you talked about one of the things you wanted to see. I think all of us were in agreement with some of the beautification of the downtown. There's always, anything you read tells you invest in your downtown.
And it
That
gets
is,
back.
where you're going to
Comes
get
back
that
to
money
you.
back. The return on the investment is there. So I know that this coming year we're going to apply for another grant again for down there. So if that starts happening,
Could tie it
that
in.
may tie into that TIF and be able to do a little bit more with it.
Give it a little bit more money
Correct.
into that area.
So
Well, yeah, or say what can we use from an infrastructure standpoint to improve upon that any of those properties.
And I think the term is dissolved. If that TIF were to be dissolved, I mean, it's sitting at $75,000 now, but if that TIF in the future would be dissolved, that money then would go to the taxing bodies that were withheld from those tax monies
Correct.
in the first
Originally when it was
place,
created.
Yes.
instead of per se the taxpayer. It would be
Doesn't
just
go
like
back
as
to
if
the
they paid,
taxpayer.
because it's not going to be refunded. It goes
Correct.
to the bodies, 155, the library, 26, fire protection district,
Right.
and
Every
such.
district. Gets
Right, because you
Every
want to
district
say,
that
what was
way
it set up for? And that's, you're looking at when a TIF is set up, why is it set up, like you had mentioned? So what was the purpose of it? So again, if it's not utilized, it's going to go back to those taxing bodies that put the money in. So I think that to answer the question is that, of course, it's a great question, and some of that's going to depend on what's going to be happening here. And we are looking at some improvements in the downtown area, and perhaps in conjunction with that, we'll have a need to use some of those funds. But right now, we don't have anything earmarked,
There you go.
anything set at this point to say
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
And and hopefully that answers the question for the.
I'd love to talk more about that question
Great.
too, and find out a little bit more what the vision is, because at this point, unfortunately, with the funds available, how can we get our biggest bang for the buck? And right now, it's pretty tough bang to
Real tough.
pull out of that
Correct,
pot.
correct. If you like this video, don't miss any others. Click on the subscribe button and bell below to be notified of future videos.